Hey, it's Michael, and this is the Kintsugi Podcast. I'll be back in a minute with this week's conversation about resilience. But first, if you wish to create a better life and have a better career, then please visit michaelobrienshift.com and download your free workbook on how to create a better life. In it, you'll discover ways to find more energy for the things and the people who matter most to you, so you can create a better tomorrow. Hey there, it's Michael, and welcome back or welcome to the Kintsugi Podcast. It's time to exhale. You did it. You made it to the end of the year. And I know it wasn't easy for any of us. You, along with everyone else, we burned some calories this year. And I know you felt it all as well, all the different emotions that you could feel. And along the way, my hunch is that you discovered that you have more patience and resilience and more capacity than you ever realized before. So as I like to say each week in my blog, you are awesome sauce. So if you can, I know not everyone can, I hope you'll take a moment to pause, breathe, and reflect on the magic that is within you, what you discovered about yourself, the strength within you, and also how you wish to use your dash. So this is the last Kintsugi podcast for 2020. I started it when the virus hit, and I thought we needed to hear messages each week to help us become more resilient. Because I have a story of resilience. That's my last bad day where I got knocked down by an SUV when I was out riding my bike. I'm lucky to be alive, and I found a way to get back up again. Part of it was grabbing onto my breath. Part of it was the Peloton I was riding with. Some of it was mindset. It wasn't linear. It wasn't easy. And I discovered so much about myself. And when all this started to happen this year, and this year is even greater than just the virus and the global pandemic, everything that happened from the environmental crisis to our equity crisis to our economic crisis, we're dealing with several crises all at the same time. So we have gotten knocked down. And we have to find a way to get back up again. And I think we have. It hasn't been easy. Sometimes we've had some dark days. Sometimes we've had some brighter days. But along the way, I hope our messages here on Kintsugi has helped you find the juice to keep going, to keep pedaling. So once we're through all of this, and I think we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, we can start creating that better tomorrow together. So I'll take a break over the next 2 weeks and come back in the new year with season 2 of the Kintsugi Podcast, more stories about resilience with more guests and more perspective on how we can do just that, create a better tomorrow together. So I know, and I know you know, how short life can be. And I do think 2020 has really validated that. We've seen the preciousness of life. And here's the thing about life, I think you'll agree with this point as well, this truth. Some may feel it's a bit morbid because I know some don't like to talk about death, but we really don't have a lot of say regarding the dates that end up on our tombstone, meaning the day we're born, we don't get to choose the day we're born. And for the most part, we don't get to choose the day we pass. But boy, do we have some say in how we use the dash. You know, the dash on the tombstone that links our birth date with our final date. So the question as we end this year is, how do you wish to use your dash? What do you want to do with it? To quote Mary Oliver, what do you wish to do with your one wild and precious life? This past week, it's interesting. I don't have all the themes played out for Kintsugi or my weekly blog. I just listen to what people are saying each week and then try to tell stories and share lessons around those stories. In this past week, I heard from a lot of people who lost loved ones during this year, as we always do. Some lost their lives due to the virus, some for other reasons. But here's the thing that they all had in common. Those final moments, and you've heard me say this in the past, that really life is a collection of moments, one moment leading to another moment. But in their final moments, they all sort of grabbed onto that last breath, their final moments. They had such a strong will to live. And it becomes especially strong when we realize how precious life is. I shared this last week, the whole concept, Japanese concept of mono no aware, which is the transient nature of life, that life is precious because, and really only because, it doesn't last forever. And when we realize we're close to the end, we just want to grab onto it. But so often we don't really grab onto it in the middle moments that lead up to, say, our final moment. So I want to take you back to the question as we end this year. What do you wish to do with your dash? Are you ready to get busy living? Now, before all this happened in 2020, we had so many people on their hamster wheels, just spinning away, grinding it out 24/7, falling into that comparison trap, you name it, and not really living life with a lot of consciousness. And that is a recipe for a lot of regret. The type of regret that doesn't spark change, but you just sit in it and you stew in it. The type of regret that Bronnie Ware talked about in her book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying, which are not being true to ourselves, spending too much time at work. We're spending more time at work than ever before, for those lucky enough to have employment. Not being emotionally available, not being vulnerable, if you will, not connecting with our friends, and not giving ourselves permission to be happy. Instead, we just chase happiness. And I say that as someone who used to chase happiness, so I could have gone pro on that. So when I think back to March, when all this started to happen, I shared with you, I shared with others, to be mindful of where we're placing our attention, because ultimately you go where your eyes go, meaning wherever you place your attention is where you're going to place your energy, and your energy, what you feel, that's going to shape your story. That's going to write your story. And I hope it's a story that is full of life, not full of regret. So another question to reflect on is, what's your story of your dash this year? What did you do with your dash this year? What's that story about? I know so many people that are part of our Peloton that listen to Kintsugi, that get my blog and are in my leadership academy, or maybe an executive client. They have felt it all, like we all have. Sadness, fear, frustration, worry, anxiety, happiness. They felt lost, like so many in our community have felt lost. They felt overwhelmed. But you know what? They've also felt the joy from having their best year ever. And it's not necessarily the best year ever in terms of like making money or job progression or promotion. It's more about they realized they could get off the hamster wheel and start living from the inside out, and really living life as fully as possible, even when we're going through something as horrific and as difficult as this global pandemic. That's the reason why they had their best year ever. So I want to encourage you, as we take a break until the end of the year, to really reflect on what you wish to do with your dash next year. Because I believe this, actually I know this, that we can write one heck of a beautiful story about what it means to live next year, what it means to create a better tomorrow together. But we need everyone's juice in order to make that a possibility. So that's what I hope we can do over the next few weeks. So I encourage you, again, to pause, breathe, and reflect. Just reflect on this past year, how you wish to use your dash, the strength that's within you. What did you learn about yourself? Because that is something that you'll probably need going forward. And then we'll come back and really think about how we want to use our dash next year. How do we want to harness all of our energy, all of the feelings, so we can create that better tomorrow? So thank you for being a listener, being a member of our Peloton this year. This all started off with just a gut intuition, if you will, that we all needed to hear messages about getting back up again when we get knocked down, because we've gotten knocked down. But you know what? We got through this because you got through this. Each one of us got through this in our own way, and hopefully together. And so collectively, we've gotten through this. And for that, I thank you. I also want to thank you for listening and subscribing and rating it and sharing it with your Peloton to take this little podcast that we have. It's not Tim Ferriss or any of those big shots, but I think our messages that we share are as vital, as essential to helping us get through these moments. So thank you. And thank you for being a resilient badass. So goodbye, 2020. And here's a tip of the hat or a toast to 2021. If you're celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I look forward to coming together again on the Kintsugi Podcast and have more conversations about resilience in a few weeks. But in the meantime, remember to pause, breathe, and reflect. And I'll talk to you in a few weeks. Until then, have fun storming the castle.